A pleasant day to each and everyone. Welcome to week 3, lesson 3 of oral communication. Today's topic is all about effective communication skills and intercultural communication. These are the objectives that we need to accomplish at the end of our lesson. First, you must be able to develop an innovative mindset to communicate and understand people from different cultural backgrounds without being ethnocentric and judgmental. Second, you are expected to acquire the necessary communication skills to manage cultural group differences accordingly. And finally, you should be able to expand consciousness of the Filipino cultural identity. Once again, these are the objectives that we need to accomplish at the end of our online class or online learning session. How effectively do you communicate? That's the question for today's discussion, and I hope you can be able to comment your answer below. First part of our discussion, we will tackle the 7 C's of effective communication, or the 7 principles of effective communication. The first one is completeness. It is essential to the quality of the communication process in general. We all know that whenever we are asked to answer a certain question, you should be able to provide a complete statement in order for your audience or listeners to grasp the context accordingly. It should be complete. Number two, conciseness. It has something to do with brevity, wherein it doesn't mean keeping the message short, but making it direct or straight to the point. We do this for us to avoid redundancy. Insignificant or redundant information should be eliminated from the communication that will be sent to the recipient. We should practice to provide clear information, keep it simple and short. Number three, consideration. In relation with ethics, where we learn that it has something to do with what is morally good or bad, what is wrong and right, what is acceptable or not. Here, the speaker should always consider relevant information about his or her receiver, such as mood, background, race, preference, education, status, needs, among others, and the like. We do this for us not to offend or not to hurt someone. So we have to very careful in selecting our words, in selecting the language or the manner on how we communicate, connect, or negotiate towards other people. That is what we call consideration. Number four, concreteness. Since we talked about earlier about completeness, of course, when we deliver information or when we give details, it should be supported by factual information, wherein it should be credible, reliable, and accurate. If it is necessary for us to provide figures, real-life examples, and situations, we may do so. Most especially if our purpose is to really convince or persuade our audience about something or someone. That is what we call concreteness. Fifth, we have courtesy. The speaker shows courtesy in communication by respecting the culture, values, and beliefs of his or her receivers. We wouldn't be able to apply consideration, we wouldn't be able to employ consideration without being polite. So make sure that we must employ these principles if we want to become an effective one, most especially in communication. Number six, clearness. It has something to do with clarity. It implies the use of simple and specific words to express ideas. Speakers should focus on a single objective in his or her speech so as not to confuse the audience. That's what we call clearness. And finally, correctness. In grammar, it simply eliminates negative impact on the audience and it increases the credibility and effectiveness of the message. So we should employ proper use of grammar construction, both in speaking, reading, and writing. That concludes the 7 principles of effective communication. Moving forward to the second part of our discussion, we'll talk about the different barriers to effective communication. Previously in Oralcom, you learned already what noise is and how does it affect in communication process. Now let's get deeper into the different barriers to effective communication. First, emotional barriers has something to do as well with psychological barriers. An emotional barrier is a mental block that restrains you from openly expressing your thoughts and feelings. It affects how you interpret, you decode, or you understand other people's behavior because of that, which influences how you formulate your arguments, influences how you respond to that person or to that certain situation. For example, you are having a bad day or you feel frustrated. What is the best solution for us to eliminate emotional barriers? The best solution for this one is to simply recognize these kinds of emotions and politely ask the other person to give you a moment to relax or calm yourself. That's the best way, I think. If you have other solutions or other way to address this concern, you may simply comment below. The second barrier is the use of jargon. Jargon are words, it refers to words, languages, technical terms, or even expressions used by specific or group of individuals, like professionals. Okay? Jargon can be used to convey meaningful information and discourse in a convenient way within the communities. A subject expert may wish to avoid jargon when explaining something to a lay person. So that becomes a barrier when you use it to, you know, a lay person. For example, you are a scientist discussing a certain weather phenomenon with your neighbor who does not know much about the topic, where you use technical terms. Okay? Now, what's the best solution? How will we address this kind of situation? The best way to address this concern is to simply adjust our language. You may simply select words that the other person can easily understand. Those words na they can easily decipher. Common words, common terms that they can easily decode. That is how we address this kind of concern in communication. Third, lack of confidence. Low confidence or low self-esteem may lead people to make negative decisions about how they treat themselves or let others treat them. Moreover, people may also make unhealthy choices or avoid situations and withdraw. For example, you are asked to share something about your day or weekend, but you are hesitant because you are shy. That question, I think it's a subjective, no? A subjective question. You can answer that whatever you want or however you want it. It depends on how was your day or how was your weekend. So meaning, walang maling sagot. It's subjective. But then again, you are hesitant because you are shy at the moment. That moment, you felt na nahihiya ka. But then that's part of what we call barrier in communication. You let that opportunity slip away. So if you want to grab that opportunity to share something relevant about yourself, you may simply address this concern by simply developing your confidence by joining or exposing yourselves to different organizations, or let's say certain organization that could help you to enhance or sharpen, enhance, or develop your interest or the thing that you want to develop. It could be your skills, it could be your talents, habits, and so on. Next one, we have physical barrier. Physical barriers are a result of disturbances in our surroundings which leads to ineffective communication. In addition, these are the examples that we can highlight in physical barrier. Inadequate equipment such as outdated computers, internet connectivity, background noise, even poor lighting, fluctuating temperatures, and the like. Those are all examples of what we call physical barriers. It has something to do with um, the equipments, the tools, the temperature, and so on and so forth. Lacking. Okay? That's physical barrier. Now, That concludes the different barriers to effective communication. Moving forward, we'll have this intercultural communication. I don't know if you can still recall, I mean, if you can, connect other terms for intercultural communication. I don't know if you have that idea or you may guess, what intercultural communication is. But here, according to Goodicons 2003, intercultural communication refers to communication among people who are having different backgrounds. Different nationalities who are diverse from one another. It happens when two individuals interact, negotiate, and create meanings while bringing in their varied cultural backgrounds. That's it. Intercultural communication. Despite of having individual differences, still we're able to connect, to negotiate, and to interact with other people. Now let's proceed with the developmental model of intercultural sensitivity or DMIS. These stages help you analyze saan na ba tayo dito banda. Okay? How? Number one, denial. The individual here does not recognize cultural differences. Second, defense. The individual starts to recognize cultural differences and is intimidated by them, resulting in a superior view on own culture or an unjustified high regard for the new one. I don't know if you're familiar with um, superior complex superiority, complex superiority, superior complex. I don't know, but yeah, you can simply comment below superiority complex. Ayan, I think that's the term. Superiority complex has something to do with this stage, defense. Now, when you feel na you feel superior because you believe na yun yung tama and so on and so forth, which I think hindi siya okay. Number three, minimization. Although individuals see cultural differences, they agree more on the universality of ideas rather than on cultural differences. Yan. Which is hindi rin okay. Okay? You believe on the idea, the ideology, but then you are not after, accepting individual and or cultural differences, diversity. Number four, acceptance. The individual here begins to appreciate important cultural differences in behaviors and eventually in values. Fifth, adaptation. The individual is very open to views when accepting the individual is very open to worldviews when accepting new perspectives. But you know what, class? It doesn't necessarily, in adaptation, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will eradicate or eliminate your existing belief or culture. It's just that you are open to accept new perspectives. Now, you are not only after appreciation, but also you're after acceptance. No, accepting new perspectives. And finally, the highest stage the highest level among we have integration. Here, individuals start to go beyond their own cultures. They're not only after appreciation and acceptance. They see themselves and their actions based on multifarious cultural viewpoints. They're now ready to, go beyond, explore, integrate their existing culture to the newly learned one or to the newly experienced one. And that concludes developmental model of intercultural sensitivity. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something today. Please do comment below if you want to learn more about oral communication. Thank you and goodbye.